But the thing with that tax, it's not being stubborn about that. It's just being that if you look back at history, every time that you have sought through tax increase to increase government's revenues, you find out that you have placed a block in the path of progress and economic growth, and you wind up with less revenue at higher rates. Now, the tax situation, we're getting the same percentage of gross national product in tax revenues at the lower rates than we've been getting before. And the answer to more revenues for government is economic growth. I believe that a tax increase would run the risk, in fact, I'm almost positive that it would be more than a risk, it would set back the economy and could even trigger possibly a slump in the economy. So we've gone on now for the last 3 years. We've added almost 9 million new jobs. We have 110 million people roughly that are employed. The highest percentage of the potential working pool ever in our history is employed. The stock market today set a new high again, all-time high. It's now $15.65, went up $18 and something. And I think for us to turn around and take a chance on something that in the past has proven that every time tax rates are raised, you've got some people in the country that are waiting with a choice program of their own to spend that money, not to use it to reduce a deficit. We're going to keep on trying over these next 5 years to get down to a balanced budget through spending cuts. Then, if that isn't enough, and if we're convinced that we have government down to the level, absolute level, where it cannot go below that and perform government's functions and services, then it would be a time to look at revenues, but not now. Yeah?
Mr. President, are you now looking forward to a second summit with Mr. Gorbachev in September or the fall, perhaps, rather than in June? And what has led to that slippage?
Oh, I don't know. Someone on their side has suggested later in the fall. We thought that June would be a nice time to do it and not get around to waiting and saying that it's got to be a year between visits. In fact, the last words of the Secretary General to me when we said goodbye was that we should keep in touch and not just wait until there was another meeting, but to keep on with what was started there. And I had said to him, proposed that it might be in late June, in the summer. And he nodded his approval of that when he accepted my invitation. Now others have perhaps suggested that it should be at another time, but there hasn't been a date set, and they haven't, other than a suggestion, they haven't given us any reason why they think that later in the fall would be better than in June.
If I could follow, sir, in terms of the atmosphere between the U.S. and the Soviet Union, the other day the Soviet officials were complaining about such things as Rambo movies and Rocky movies, which cast the Soviets in a bad light. Do you think that's an appropriate sort of thing? Are you talking to your friends in Hollywood about the kind of movies being made these days?
No, I was talking to my friends in Hollywood back at a time when they seemed to be making pro-communist pictures.
Mr. President, back on the subject of terrorism, what effect, if any, do you think the actions you have taken today will have on the welfare of the U.S. hostages in Lebanon? I'd like to follow up, sir.
Well, I think we're talking about two separate subjects here, even as to the nature of the people that are holding them and the other terrorists that we've been talking about. But I can only tell you that we continue and have been meeting with, talking with, and a number of individuals, a number of other governments, following every lead that we can that would lead to their rescue. And we're not going to let up until we're successful in that. Again, I can't get specific on the things that we're doing, other than that it is a constant and all-out effort. But I think that it would be counterproductive for me to explain any of the things we're doing.
If I may follow up, sir, can you tell us what you know about their welfare?
We have no reason to believe that that they are not, I hesitate to say well-treated. Let us say that apparently they're in as reasonably good health as could be expected. view of their incarceration.
Mr. President, in connection with your next meeting with General Secretary Gorbachev, the Russians, in response to the terrorist activities that you have been talking about this evening, have made some very defensive statements of Libya and of Qaddafi. And as you know, they supply Libya with a good deal of their military equipment and possibly some of the training, some of which may be then passed on to the terrorists. I would like to know, when you sit down and talk to General Secretary Gorbachev, or if you're in communication with him before your next meeting, do you intend to bring this up and suggest to him that they could be more forthcoming in areas outside of your direct talks and make the climate better?
Yes, this was very definitely one of our conversation, or one of our topics in our one-on-one conversations about why we had a suspicion of them, and it was incorporated in a subject that I had brought up, in which I said that it was obvious that both of us suspected the other, distrusted the other, and that it was going to take more than words, but take deeds for us to eliminate that distrust. And if we could do that, then we could get on with the business of reducing arms and so forth, instead of looking at each other as antagonists all the time.
Have you considered, sir, directly communicating with Gorbachev about this recent incident and about possibly using his leverage with Qaddafi?
Again, you're getting around to details that I don't want to get into. Yes.
President, would your response to the terrorist incident have been different if there were not more than 1,000 Americans still in Libya?
Well, very obviously, they have to be a consideration. As you will recall, the first time that we took some economic actions, there were roughly 8,000 Americans in Libya, and we asked, did not order and did not declare an emergency, but asked them to come back, and now there are between 1,000 and 1,500 there. But yes, you have to consider them as potential hostages.
If I may follow up, you said earlier that you thought Mr. Qaddafi was flaky. Do you seriously think that he might be emotionally or mentally unbalanced?
Oh, no, I won't. I use that in the term that we use it in conversation about someone. No, I just think that the man is a zealot. He's pursuing a revolutionary cause that could affect a great many countries. And you only have to look at his performance in Chad, in which he then violated the word that he had given to France with regard to his aggression there and other places. So I feel that you have to be on guard against virtually any kind of act. Yes?